Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Southcott.
And I'm Komette. And welcome to the Gorehounds Playground here in Fort Collins, Colorado. This is Booze and Booze, where we pair different alcoholic drinks with our reviews of horror movies.
And today we're going to be talking about The Wind, directed by Emma Tammi. It's a Western horror movie, and we are excited to get into this.
Yeah, and let's go to the kitchen and I'll show you this week's drink.
So, we wanted to make something kind of fancy for this movie at first, but this is such a minimalist movie that we kind of changed our minds. So, we are doing a shot of rye whiskey. Today we chose Bullet. It's very, very simple. Very much an Old West style drink. All right.
This land is funny, you know. The wind never stops. Plays tricks on your mind.
What's this?
It's nothing.
You don't need to be filling your head with stuff like this.
Alright, well, we just finished up The Wind, and that's a pretty damn good indie horror flick.
Yeah, it was intense. I liked it a lot.
It's one of the first ones in a while where there's been some actual decent scares. They tried to do some things that you don't really see in this particular genre, and I think a lot of that comes from having a female director in it, where, the female characters on the screen they're not, infallible. They make a lot of mistakes. They are very interesting. They're compelling. It's not just about the guys in this one, and it's very much, feminine-oriented, and you get that a little bit from stuff like The Witch, and a few other movies that have come out recently, but this one feels a lot more just driven and kind of, I don't know, the narrative focus is different than you see from a lot of movies.
They definitely don't spell out the story for you. You have to guess the entire time what the story is, and even at the end you're like, what was real, what wasn't real, type of thing. There's
a lot of that where it's it could be psychological horror, it could be actual demons. There's a lot that could be both back and forth. The way things moved, it felt like it was the actual demons haunting these people or messing with these people, but it's never that clear.
Yeah. And I do gotta say, I like that it didn't hold your hand for the narrative a lot, because it kind of just made you think really hard and really question what was happening and what was going on. And I think that made it a lot scarier. Yeah, you get engrossed in the story because you can't easily predict the next thing that's going to happen. I would say that some people are going to say that this movie relies too heavily on flashbacks. That's something that a lot of people don't like in movies. And there are times where it was not clear when we were in a flashback and when we were in the present time. Yeah. So there were a couple instances for that were choppy. But otherwise, I felt like I was able to still keep up with it, and I was never, confused or angry about that. I was just okay, we need a little more context, then we can figure it out. Yeah, what would happen is that Tony would be like, wait, what is happening? And then in the next scene, they would explain it. We're like, oh, yeah. Okay. And then it would be like, wait, what's going on? And then we're like, oh, okay. Well, it doesn't follow the straight up 3-act structure that we're so used to, where it's got the beginning, the middle, the end. You've got the inciting incident, all that stuff. It has aspects of that, but because it's non-linear, you're getting a story that's kind of layering on itself. And I think the reason why they did that is because if you had just a straight up linear story, you would end up knowing too much of the mystery right up front, and it would just turn into a standard sort of haunting poltergeist type movie instead of being sort of a mystery layered in horror. Yeah. I gotta say that this movie set tone really, really well, and it set isolation very well. Yeah. The windy plains, just the entire time, you're seeing this badass frontier woman that is just dealing with everything being thrown at her, most of the time completely alone, just out there in this cabin. And it's sketchy, and it's suffocating at times, and then there are times where it's just so isolated that you could feel a lot of that loneliness she's feeling. Yeah, I felt that a lot in the pregnancy scene. Yeah. A lot. I felt this tightness in my chest as I was watching it, and I was like, ooh. And it was interesting having her kind of go back to her German roots, because having another language, especially one where it sounds kind of similar to English, and that she drops the tone of her voice a little bit, makes it seem a lot more entranced or a lot more kind of
deeper and almost possessed sounding. Like there are times where she like falls into it and she's praying hard in German, and like it adds to a sort of eeriness. And I think that's the word that I would use to describe this movie the most. Like it wasn't absolutely terrifying. It was unsettling. It was eerie, and it had moments where it actually got scary.
Yeah, like I jumped quite a few times. And that's a pleasant surprise for me, even though I do it a lot in my gaming. But
gaming, you're like, you have the control in your hand and you're fully like just locked in.
Whereas most of the time movies don't like jump scare me or just scare me. This one did a pretty good job of it though.
Yeah. And it's not like, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
No.
Well, it depends. If there's some wind or something, it might get in my head a little bit. Like,
I might have a weird pregnancy dream tonight.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
But also, like, the movie has some really interesting kind of concepts to deal with as far as loss, about loyalty, about so many other things. Yeah, jealousy is a big theme in this movie. And I just thought that they did a very good job with this. Like, it's not perfect, but it's very good for indie horror.
I wish they would have explained a little bit more at the end, because there's questions that I have that they never answer, and I think they did that on purpose. But for me, just being the type of person that I am, I was like, well,
yeah,
I wish I knew if the thing from the diary was real.
Yeah.
Or if a few other questions that I have, like the Reverend. Like I want those questions answered, and I wish there was just a little bit more of a conclusion with that.
Yeah.
That being said, it doesn't ruin the end for me.
No, and you kind of get a sense of the unreliable narrator happening, because you don't know if what you're seeing on screen is true or not. And I always like when that's played well. And I feel like this movie actually did a good job of that, where like the mystery is strong enough where you're not seeing through everything. Like there are moments where like you're like, why did she open the door? That's totally not going to be like what she wants to do. Mm-hmm. But it's never like so blatant that it gets weird.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of, they do a lot of cool like lighting tricks, I think, and the CGI was good.
That's because there was very little CGI.
Yeah,
like they kept
smoke. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, and like I'm almost wondering if like the smoke that was coming out of like this guy's vest and everything, if that wasn't actually smoke because of how clear it moved, like with everything. It was either really good limited CGI or good practical effects.
Yeah.
There were some some animation aspects that you could tell were clearly like special effects, but they were done well and they were done sparing. And there's some really cool stuff that happens as far as the animals in the movie. Probably the most intense.
I wish we figured out if that was real or not.
Yeah. And that scene, like the one where she's alone, like it's early on in the movie and she thinks something's at the door, like the wolves growling and everything. That was a very intense and well-produced scene. Yeah.
That scene was really good. The pregnant scene was really good. The house scene in the other house with the pillow was really good.
Yeah.
They did a lot of really like good jobs with it.
There's also like an interesting idea of like this resentment that this couple has because they're having to like fully take care of another incompetent couple on the plains. And
they were alone. Like they say that they were completely alone on the plains, and then when this other couple came, that means there was 4 of them. So that's alone.
Yeah, and it's like they talk about the Reverend on the road, and the way they say the Reverend, it means like probably like I bet if they wanted to go to church, it's like a 4-hour horse ride or something like that. Yeah. For him to resupply, it was a couple days going back to town.
Which if I wouldn't leave him. Like, why would you leave your wife if she's already getting hysteric?
Oh, somebody had to watch the animals, I guess.
They had chickens and a goat. It's not like they had, like...
Yeah, but if you came back and, like, you were trying to get through the winter and everything you had was eaten by wolves because nobody was at home.
I don't know.
I feel like that there's enough reason for her to stay that wouldn't be an issue. But she wasn't in hysterics whenever he left for that.
They allude that she was in hysterics pretty much when they got there.
Yeah, like whenever they got there, through the pregnancy, through the things that happened. But like whenever that was over, she seemed like she was pretty solid and like they were in a good spot in their relationship.
And then the next couple came.
Yeah, and it started to unravel a little bit.
I don't know, I think I'd go crazy if I found that out. But obviously, No, well, and then the other couple was rubbing it in her face, and then that's why the incident happened.
Yeah, there's so many different incidents that you could be referring to as well. Like, this movie is so good at not just blatantly throwing it in your face or explaining it to you, but the subtext is always there. And it's just a mark of good writing. I looked at it, and, like, the woman that wrote this has not done a lot. She did, like, The Orphan and a few other things. She's done, like, 8 movies that are, like, then, like, the word. But, like, I'm going to have to look up some of the other stuff that she did, because I haven't actually watched any of it. But, like, judging by this, she's a pretty strong writer, especially whenever you're talking about having 2 sets. Like, you had the 2 houses and you had the planes to work with, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. The director also did a really good job, I gotta say, and I commented about this the first time when we were watching. I liked how most of the time when in movies, when there's obviously a male lead, they tell a lot about his personality and his character, kind of, and they did not do that at all in this. Isaac was pretty much a mystery. He wasn't really there. It focused on Lizzie, but because of that lack of information about this person, you have no idea if what is real and what isn't. And that's really interesting. Yeah. Because I said he was one way, and Tony said that he was another way, and then the story unfolded. And either one of us could be correct, though. Yeah, I think that it would tend to feel like you're more correct there, but because we don't know how deep everything went with Lizzie, we don't get the clear answer. Right. Especially because, like, what if she only imagined tearing the page out or things like that? There's so many different things that could have happened that made this. But also, he was very concerned whenever he saw the diary, and, like, I'm sure that probably wasn't the only page that was talking about Isaac and everything. Right. And also, we gotta mention that I didn't even think about the entire movie, but this thing that was in Lizzie may or may not have been Emma saw too. Yeah. So that leans towards that it is real. Yeah, it's like with it's like with The Witch and a lot of other movies where it's ambiguous enough that it could be psychological, but is leaning more towards realism for me, or like a real. It's not possession, but it's like demonic interference. It's really good storytelling though, when you can finish something and be like, it can go completely 2 other ways. What were we talking about the other day that was like that? That it could be psychological. It was Us. Yeah. Us is another example. Is that it can go literal or can go figurative. Exactly, and that's exactly how this movie is too. And it's really well done. I would say that this is a little bit more realistic in how it was done, because Us was so chock full of that sort of stuff that it's hard to say, well, this was just a symbol for this. Yeah. Like, it's a little, like, this one, it literally could be the psychological aspect, or, I don't know, it's just good. It was really good. I do gotta say that the sound editing was really well done. Oh, yeah. They did have a lot of things to try to intensify the jump scares, which I get why you do that, but there's it was a bit much for me. Yeah, at times it was a bit much as far as, like, forcing the jump scare, especially whenever they did so much with the set and setting to make you creeped out anyway. It just felt, sometimes those were cheap shots, but also because the sound design was so well and we were, like, rumbling with everything. Yeah. It was, like, the kind of shrill, like, violin, all that. Like, I would say that really did fit with this film. I agree. So, did it scare you? I would say there were a few good jump scares, and, like, there was an unease throughout the whole movie. Yeah, it scared me. If I was watching it alone at my house in the middle of the night, I probably would have been pretty freaked out. Yeah, like, it's on VOD right now. Yeah. Like, you can pick it up from Amazon, Google, like, all those other ones for about $7. And I would say that it's worth the price of admission. Some places have it in theaters, but I don't think that's going to be very long. It's a super limited release. But support movies like this through VOD, and it directly helps them a lot. Yeah, and it's worth watching. Okay, so rewatchability. I would say there's a decent amount, because I want to see if there's any more clues to whether or not this was like that. One way or the other. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'd probably watch this again. I'm going to try to get my best friend to watch it. Yeah. Definitely worth watching again. Yeah. Did you like it? I definitely liked it. Like I said, it's not a perfect movie,
but it's a good movie. And I love indie horror because they try things that don't always work. And in this case, it worked. And I just really enjoy it whenever you can, like, first off, first-time director. Like, this is her first movie other than some shorts.
That's really impressive.
Like, I think her name was Emma Tammi, something like that. So she did a great job. The lead actress, I can't remember her name, it'll be at the bottom, did a fantastic job. Like, there wasn't anything wrong with any of the acting in the movie, really. Like, it was just a solid
It was
thing.
really believable.
Yeah. So I would say yes to all the questions in this, and that might be the first time in this series that everything hit yes.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it's a slow burn. You have to make up a lot in your head. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it kind of makes it creepier because you really have no idea what's going to happen next. And it's definitely one that I'm going to tell all of my horror friends about. Go watch this movie.
Yeah.
It's good.
Especially because you'll be some of the first people that get to watch it before this thing becomes like a cult classic.
Yeah, didn't this just get released?
April 5th it came out, so it's a couple weeks old, but like I saw it from a Reddit like trailer post. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely worth your time. And yeah, I think that's all I've got on this.
Yeah, that's all I got. Tell us what you think, if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, if you watched trailers, what do you think happened? No one knows. Always like and subscribe to all of our videos. And if you really like us, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/humanechoes. Get exclusive content, exclusive art, all of that fun stuff.
Yep, we got new pins coming out, all sorts of cool things. The bonus podcast, we're almost 100 episodes deep. So check that out, and I hope you guys have an excellent day.
Yeah, see ya.